to thank Brandwise for having us today. And I'm Rita Mitchell, as has already been said. And it's my distinct honor, really, to talk a little bit about the YWCA of Middle Tennessee, and then to introduce this phenomenal woman, Suzanne Post, and talk about her global initiative that's taken off, and you've heard a little bit about it. And what I'm really going to talk about is kind of the power of yes. This is the theme that's going to go through this whole entire program between Suzanne and myself. So I know a thing or two about saying yes. As mentioned, I have not only chaired the YW board one time, two times, three times, and I also serve on the national YWCA board, which you can see from the pictures, but I am not afraid of saying yes to the YW. Also, you guys may not be aware, but we have 200 plus affiliates across this country of associations, and that makes us the largest provider of domestic violence services across the USA. And so you have to say yes to that. And as was mentioned, I also said yes to leaving a successful banking and finance career and not only writing one book, but writing two books that directly relate to empowering and inspiring women. And so that's what I'm about. Saying yes, that's what the YW does. And so the YW walks the talk about saying yes, when obviously no would be easier and understandable. But even when the pandemic stops us in our track, domestic violence doesn't stop. So the need to provide shelter for women and children doesn't stop. The need for mentors, support, and services doesn't stop. And the desire for people and families to reach goals to take better care of themselves and their families doesn't stop. So we at the YW, we can't stop, we won't stop. So 2020 and this pandemic obviously made our job of delivering services logistically almost impossible. And I say almost because we didn't stop providing those services. And I'm going to read these things that kept happening at the YWCA because I don't want to miss not one program of what we did. So we kept the doors of our shelter open when many assumed that we would close it. And that is all the way through the pandemic. When we were told we should not keep the shelter open, but we did, we kept it open. We opened a new testing site for the Family Learning Center students when other testing sites were closing because our folks and people still needed to get education to make their lives better. We met our Dress for Success clients out in the parking lot, fitted them with suits, so they could go to their interviews for jobs. So that did not stop. Showing up for our girls and students, even when all school went virtual, we still showed up for our girls. By continuing to promote healthy masculinity to the boys in our men clubs, we showed up. And this is not the last thing. Last thing is gonna blow your minds, but this thing we had to do, we added a text line to support the 35 to 80% increase in the calls that came to our crisis line. And I want to say that again because, as I said, domestic violence doesn't stop in times like this. It actually increases. And so to have to add a text line because we had 35 to 80% more calls to the crisis line tells you the work that is done here at the YWCA. And then finally, I want to talk about our CEO, Sharon Roberson. Sharon actually moved, you can definitely clap for Sharon. Definitely clap. I wish she was here. But Sharon actually moved her office to the Domestic Violence Center so she could help the kids at the center with their homework between her CEO meetings. And that's what we do at the YW. So we say yes over and over and over again. But we couldn't do it without the women in this room who stepped up and support us throughout the year. So if you have not gotten involved with the YW, we ask you to please contact us. We would love for you to be part of this family that doesn't know how to say no. We say yes because yes is what's needed. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Suzanne, who's not only a phenomenal woman, but who says yes, yes, and yes. And so take it away, Suzanne.
Thank you, Rita. Is this on? Yes. Yes. Yes, it's on. Thank you. And thank you all for being here tonight. It is truly an honor to be here on behalf of Shear Haven and the YWCA of Nashville. My name is Suzanne Post. I'm a wife, a mother, a longtime stylist and salon owner, and I'm a friend and volunteer of the YWCA. I'm also a survivor of domestic violence. Rita spoke about the power of saying yes in her introduction, and I want to tell you about how Shear Haven was born out of years of trauma, which turned into tireless passion, and a few very key times someone said yes. Here's the hard part. On July 5th, 2008, I left my abuser. He was my then husband. He was the father of my 2.5-year-old son. Shortly after leaving, he threatened to take our son and that I would never see him again, to kill me, to kill anyone who kept me and my son Jules safe from him. I know firsthand how isolating and scary it is to be in an abusive relationship, as well as to leave one. I had to act quickly. I had to get a safe place to stay. I got an order of protection, and I quickly discovered just how useless a piece of paper is when you're trying to protect yourself. I made the decision to get full-time armed security, and I moved 6 times in 6 weeks with a 2.5-year-old. Ultimately, my husband took his own life, and I knew that we were lucky to be alive. So, fast forward 8 years to 2016, and I'm married to the most wonderful husband and have another 2.5-year-old. Life is very busy, and my son and I have worked hard to put the abuse behind us. We're healthy, we're happy, we're thriving. My business is successful, and I'm basically primed and ready to say my big first yes. So late that year, a law was passed in Illinois. It started to make national headlines, and I came across it in Upworthy, and it truly stopped me in my tracks. The headline was, "Lawmakers Spotted a Secret Weapon in the Fight Against Domestic Abuse. Hairstylists." So, I've been to some fundraising events for the YW, like the spring breakfast, and I had some great contacts on staff. And I knew the statistics. I knew that 1 in 4 women would experience domestic abuse. I knew that at the time, Tennessee was 4th in the nation at the rate that women are killed by men. We're still in the top 10. I knew that 50% of all calls to police were domestic violence related. And I knew, because of all of my experience in the industry, just how significant and unique hairstylists could be in the fight against domestic abuse because of the relationship we have. So, I knew how valuable resources would have been earlier in my own experience. And I knew exactly how important it was to be seen and heard, to have someone that could just be that eyes and ears that knows what to listen for, who cares. Turns out the YW was also in search of a me, someone who was ready to say, yes, let's do this. So that also brings me to a quick but important note that's been super key in our success and our growth. Partnering with the YW allowed me to do what I could do best, what I bring to the table, without having to worry about starting a new nonprofit or staffing a team or renting an office or, just doing all that would be fundraising, doing all the things that you would have to do if you were starting a new nonprofit. We're an initiative that's part of a 123-year-old organization that's already the biggest domestic violence resource provider in the state. So it was just the perfect match. And it's really allowed us to move forward quickly and reach more stylists and just grow and meet our goals. So we worked with the domestic violence team, the marketing team for the YW. And during Domestic Violence Awareness Month in 2017, we were able to launch the Shear Haven Domestic Violence 101 program. And it quickly spread. We got out into the community, and we truly went door to door. We would go to salons, and they would host trainings, and we did it all in person. We trained probably a couple of hundred professionals between 2017, 2020, and we knew that we needed to reach a broader audience. But this was before COVID, so there was no great relationship with Zoom at that point. And we thought, how are we going to possibly get people to do virtual workshops? How is that going to work? How would people even learn on Zoom? So we learned shortly thereafter that legislation was already in the Tennessee General Assembly. They were trying to mandate training like ours. We attempted in 2018, and it failed by 1 vote. So we learned a lot, we brushed ourselves off, and we looked to the future. And all the while, we just kept continuing to spread the initiative, salon by salon, in-person training by in-person training. In early 2020, we decided to try again with the legislation, and this time we had the full support of the YW Advocacy Committee. And while the measures still stalled, we heard one particular piece of feedback loud and clear from the lawmakers. The training needed to be online and free. What? Before we could come up with a million reasons why that was never going to work and what it wasn't what we envisioned, the world pivoted for us. The pandemic hit and it shut the legislation down. What else did it do? It brought the world online. We also learned during lockdowns and in the early days of the pandemic that not everyone was safer at home. I was asked to be part of Governor Lee's economic recovery group as a salon representative, and I don't know if you can guess what I said, a huge, big yes. I was put on the direct contact subcommittee, and I there was able to meet one of the most key instrumental people in the Shear Haven journey. Leslie Rosti, who is the lead educator superstar for Barbicide. You know, that blue jar that's on every station in every salon and barbershop since the beginning of time. So she shared that they had just scaled their website the month before COVID hit, and that they were offering their salon disinfection training online. The lawmakers needed this to be online and free. Barbicide is offering free online training for salons. We asked Leslie and her team, and they said yes. The salon industry leader in health and safety agreed to host our training on their website, along with a short quiz and a feature where stylists could download their certificate, share it on social media, or they could print it out and put it in the salon, along with resources that have all of the hotline numbers and all of the things that they could pass to their stylists, to their clients. We rolled out this training with Barbicide in late October of 2020, and since then, you were almost right, we have trained 26,000 people worldwide, and it's reached over 99 countries. A few months ago, we were even contacted by a beauty professional in Dublin. She wanted to be our ambassador for Dublin, for Ireland and the UK. She's a fellow survivor, and she came across our training on LinkedIn while she was in the middle of a lockdown. It hit her in the same way that it hit me. She has over 30 years of industry experience, and she had seen countless signs of domestic violence in her visiting salons over the years. On July 5th of this year, which I don't know if you remember the beginning of my story, but it was 13 years to the day after I left my abuser, we launched Shear Haven in the UK, and we had a staggering response. We had articles in The Independent. We had interviews on the biggest morning shows. We had a radio blitz. And we've now had interest from potential ambassadors from Belgium, South Africa, even Italy. And next on our magic wand list, we need to get this translated into more languages. So, I'm pretty good at asking. So if there's anyone here tonight who wants to say a big yes to helping that happen, I would be very grateful. You can just let me know. Are you ready for the biggest yes of all? Yes. Late 2020, early 21 is also when we decided it was time to try the legislation again. They wanted online free training, and thanks to our partnership with Barbicide, we could offer online free training. Thank you to the YWCA Committee, the Tennessee Board of Regents, Commerce and Insurance, and all of the bases that we had already covered in our previous attempts. We were ready to take this fight to Zoom. I testified from my salon for the Senate committee, and full legislation passed unanimously. Thank you. Then we moved to the House, and we were able to actually testify in person. Our bill was overwhelmingly supported by both parties, which I think you guys can all imagine how unique and special that is these days. The law takes effect on January 1st of 22. And when it's rolled out with the help of the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance, all licensed cosmetologists, barbers, estheticians, nail techs, instructors, and natural hair braiders in Tennessee will be trained with our training, which in total will cover 77,000 people in Tennessee alone. Okay, so if you're keeping track of yeses, the yes that I said to myself when I came across that Upworthy article that told me I had to make this happen in Tennessee. The yes we got from YW to partner and create this training. The yes from Barbicide to host it, which has allowed us to take the training globally. And now the most recent yes from the Tennessee legislature. We're going to close by encouraging every single person here to say yes. Say yes to yourselves. And when you're able to say yes to someone else to make a resource or a connection happen, please say yes. So much good can come from women just yesing each other left and right. And we'd love to have you join us at the YW here in Middle Tennessee and Nashville, where we are just getting started with this amazing work. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you for being here.
And I want to say, I do want to say one thing, because I did, we really appreciate the opportunity for the YW to talk about what we do and the work that we do in this community, especially as it relates to domestic violence and the partnership. But I want to make sure I hit Jamie's point, because I said, okay, Jamie, this is awesome, but what do you want to leave with you guys as marketeers? And so what Jamie said and what we want you to see is that this collaboration did not cost a lot of money. It was a lot of yeses, it was a lot of passion, it was a lot of purpose, it was a lot of collaboration, but from that effort, you have now reached, we're 100,000 plus in 99 countries, the whole state of Tennessee, and that's thinking about how you do marketing smart. And so I'm not a marketeer, but I'm repeating what Jamie told me to say, so thank you guys for the opportunity. All right.